Hello, this is Terrence King, and welcome to 3D modeling for 3D printing. In this lesson, I'm going to be discussing the Boolean modifier. In order to start a Boolean modifier, you need at least two objects. Let's go ahead and add a plane. Let's move this over to the side so you can see that. And we'll need to select our parent object that we want to apply the modifier to. So over here on our shelf we find the wrench. That's our modifiers. Click on Add Modifier. Locate Boolean. It's our Boolean modifier. And in order to apply this, we will need to apply it with an object. And we can apply different operations of that object. First we have difference, union, and intersect. Alright, in order to understand how these operate, we first need to understand the 3D object. So take for instance this cube. Any basic cube is going to have 6 sides to it: front, back, left, right, top, bottom. Each one of these sides is known as a face. So it has 6 faces. Each one will have at least 4 edges. And each corner is going to be known as a vertex. So everything about this has a direction that everything is facing. Select everything. Alright, if I scroll down here, I'll come to a section called normals. Normals will give me the direction that my normals are facing. So what does that mean? That means that there's an inside and an outside to each face. All these faces are facing outward. Even the plane has a normal. This one is facing up. Let's go back into my cube. Normals. I can flip my normals. Go inside and I can see that now they are facing inward. Let's go ahead and scale this down. That way they're not overlapping each other. And if you look at here, the center of each face is now facing the center of the cube. Tap out of that. Now we get some unusual shading on the outside of this. That just means it's a negative space now. Let's go ahead and Control Z, undo that. What the outside and inside is where the light reflects on it in 3D space. So we had all the normals facing inside, so light doesn't reflect on the inside of an object. It reflects on the outside of the object. So if I were to duplicate this, hit enter, scale this cube down. So now I have one cube inside of another cube. Now if I were to export this as a 3D object and try to print that, it's going to give me just this cube right here. Now why is that? It's because these faces on this inside cube is facing in the same direction. So it's going to choose my outside furthest point of this cube. Okay. Now, if I invert those few normals on the inside cube, that means that is a surface on the inside of this. If I were to chop off the top of this cube, as a solid object, then I will have a box in here. This is not a box now that I've deleted these two faces, because these are just open. This is just open space inside here. If you were to try to print that, you might get some strange results. But with those normals on the inside, those are since they're facing towards the center, this inside cube is facing towards the center. That's going to create a hollow cavity inside my cube. So whenever I print that out, that will be a hollow cube. Let's go ahead and delete those faces. Now that I've discussed normals, let's go ahead and move this back to its 0 position. Alright. In order for one object to be a Boolean object, it needs to pass through the object. So, take for instance this plane and this cube. Their dimensions are 2 by 2. 2 by 2. A plane has no depth to it, so it's not going to have a z dimension. But let's go ahead and try to intersect that the plane with the cube. Well, it just completely disappeared. Why is that? It's because the edges of the plane are falling exactly on the edges on the sides of the cube. So in order for that plane to interact with that cube without strange results, we will need to scale it up just that ever so slightly. Alright, selected the cube. We're going to intersect with the plane. Alright, that chopped it off. Why did that chop it off? Well, let's go ahead and explain that. Alright, let's go ahead and change this back to difference. Alright. Now, with the difference of it, it selected this top half of the box of where it wants to face, because the difference is subtracting. From where that plane is facing is where we're going to subtract. If this plane was, say, a cube, it's a cube with all normals facing the outside. This is still being applied as a difference. Let's go ahead and hit apply, and let's go ahead and get rid of that new box that we've just created. Well, that subtracted all the area that was in the negative space of that plane or that cube. Tab and edit. You can see I've got it actually cut it to where now I've got 2. Let's undo everything. So why did that cut it off instead of putting a cut down the middle? Well, that is just a plane is an infinite integer that shows everything beyond that is going to be cut off. So imagine, if you will, that this were an infinite box that just went all the way down. Everything inside that box is going to be cut off because it is a difference. Next is intersect. Intersect means that let's go ahead and apply it. Now, okay, there's my cube. That's what's left. That is what's left with it. Take, for instance, a cookie cutter. A cookie cutter just cut out its exact what it needs out of the center of that piece of dough. And that is what we're left with. This is the area that we want to be left with of that intersect. Okay. Alright, last is a union. Well, union, you'll have some strange results with a plane. Union is just combining the two objects and removing any of the inside topology. So if we were to go ahead and apply this, get rid of the other plane. So this is what it happens. It is no longer a full 3D object. It's actually plane, just extruded out in the center. So this is the outside edge of that plane that we started out with, and then it removed part of the cube. Okay. Now, say we want to make that plane a cube again. Tab. Make that union with the plane. This time it is now a cube. Hit apply. Let's go ahead and delete that new cube. And we'll go ahead and tab into edit and take a look at this new object that we've created. First, we started out with just this inside cube, and now we've added this outside cube. So what did that do? Since it combined them, it removed everything in the center. So now the continuing edges that connected these 2 points is now that connected this edge with this edge is now removed. This edge and this edge now removed. Alright. Let's go ahead and turn off those normals. We already know that they're facing out. And even that edge with that edge. You know, that is no longer a face. Any faces, vertices, or anything like that will be cut off. It will be removed from the object during that Boolean operation.